Hey everybody, welcome to Cisco's presentation and how we're working with Microsoft on our vision roadmap towards a future-proof workplace. I'm 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗍, Senior Director, Product Management and Go-to-Market in Cisco, focused on the devices side, and Patrick, Eustace, and my team.
Hi folks, so welcome, and if you have a few minutes after this session, we're at booth 5259, where you can see some of the experience that we'll talk through live and in person.
Super. So we will try to get through this stuff and give some time for questions. Let's see how we get on. What we want to do is talk really, when we think about Cisco firstly, one of the things, I've been in Cisco for 21 years, so I remember when I was first coming in and I saw the wonderful technology that was in Cisco. One of the things that was very clear is we thought about each of these technologies in a quite siloed architecture. What were we doing on networking? What were we doing on Wi-Fi access, in security, in devices, in collaboration, et cetera. I think this has fundamentally changed over the last few years. One of the realizations is these pieces all play a fundamental part in the future-proof workplace agendas of our customer base. So that's what I wanted to talk through in the first part of this session, just give you an understanding of what that vision looks like, and then we'll dive into the details of our relationship with Microsoft around MTR and around AI. So how have we organized ourselves in Cisco when we think about the goals and outcomes of our customer base? And by the way, we live this in Cisco. I think we're 16 million square feet of office space. So when we think about how we address what we need from a technology perspective, our significant security concerns around the data we have of our own data, our customers' data, our partners' data, we have an awful lot to think about there. The way we organize ourselves now is around AI-ready data centers and all the needs to address those goals, which are growing massively. The future-proof workplace is which is what we're here to talk about. And then underpinning all of this is a digital resilience that allows us to understand how this entire architecture is coming together. Is it secure? What are the root cause analyses? And leveraging AI across all of these technologies to help us deliver a fundamentally scalable architecture for our customer base. So with that, I want to double click on the future-proof workplace, and I wanted to start with what are the outcomes that matter and for whom do those outcomes matter. So, we're technology people. I'm and Patrick are in the devices team. We have one particular part to play, but more and more and more, the conversations that we have with our customer base and the conversations we have even inside Cisco and how we handle our offices are more and more with HR, with real estate, with facilities, and then, of course, with our IT teams. And what we have to think about is these worlds are starting to collide and interact in a very different way. So when you think about HR, what are the key concerns there? Retaining talent, cross-pollination of new talent coming into the company, retaining the talent that's been in the company and has a lot of the IP within the company, the knowledge that needs to be shared. How do we get that cross-pollination working well? How do we ensure that the employees have a frictionless experience? The expectation of new employees coming into all of our companies is that they have a frictionless experience wherever they may be working. There's ever more increased need for flexibility for attracting and maintaining our talent. So that's HR. Real estate, massive budgets, second biggest typically in companies to the salaries of the employees. They're planning 3, 5, even 7 years out at times if it's a total new build. And they're thinking, am I doing the right thing? And when I've made a decision, how do I monitor things like the utilization of it? How do I drive the ROI of what I've invested in? How do I start taking the data from that for my future plans? How do I refit, change, and do new things? That's what real estate is thinking about. And then there's facilities and IT, and I think of these as like two sides of the same coin, right? The IT team is being asked to manage an ever more scalable architecture in a way that actually you don't get new people to do it. We're not getting more budgets to go do this. So how do we make it scalable, efficient, dial tone reliable? Facilities, they have the building, the carpeted space, and the same challenges. How do I deliver sustainability in a cost-effective way that allows me to be able to deliver this without more resources? Those are the kind of questions. And so when we think about how all of this needs to come together and all the use cases, data is fundamental, right? And we've all talked about this ad nauseum in various sessions, but the data for each of these use cases is critical. Things like mapping data and so on and so forth, occupancy data, real time in the rooms, in the open plan space, location information, identity information, calendar information, and so on. To be able to deliver to these use cases and outcomes, I've got to be able to get this data out, report on it, and build the right guidance for the user community. So what's happening right now, and the way budgets are typically getting spent on this, is it's incredibly siloed. Each use case is being driven by a stack which says, I need data. Maybe I'm going to put a bunch of sensors into the rooms to get occupancy information. That occupancy information will drive an understanding of utilization, and then I'll provide a report out to HR, or rather to real estate. One stack. Another stack says, oh, I need occupancy information so I can help people understand what's available. And then there's another stack, and another stack, and another stack. And budgets are forked in each of these stacks, which means there's very little efficiency to drive the scale, which is what all of us are trying to get to. And so Cisco's approach is to say, OK, when we think about the infrastructure that we're investing in across the rooms, across the network, across the access points, across the security architecture, we need to think about making sure we're delivering data across all of these use cases. And so for us, Patrick and I, in our devices world, we have to think about what we can provide for sustainability, for occupancy information, for room utilization, as well as delivering a fabulous collaboration experience. That's the worlds that have collided for us. So when we think about that, one thing, and we'll talk a lot about this, is the data that we can provide from these devices in these rooms. The other is what we do with that data. And so the way we think about it is there's sort of 3 layers to AI. There's AI at the edge. There's the stuff that I want to do in real time in the rooms or at the desk to support the users in having a absolutely excellent experience. There is the AI in the cloud, and I should really say clouds plural, right? There's lots of different clouds that I need to integrate this infrastructure with, be it Microsoft, be it Workday, ServiceNow, Zoom, Google, and everything else. I need an architecture that allows those cloud-based services to deliver the capabilities that they're able to do in an unfettered way. And then the last thing we'll touch on this in the presentation is about AI in the control plane. So how do I use AI to deliver that scalable management and control of these deployments? So that's really how we'll structure it. I won't dwell on these slides too much. Just know that there is an enormous ongoing AI roadmap. That's one of the things that we on the endpoints team are constantly challenged with. Is like, we come out, and Patrick will talk about some of the new innovations in a minute. We come out with all these new innovations, and it is amazing how immediate the next innovation ask comes along. Like the speed with which the user community are starting to adopt and understand what's possible. We're starting to get the next questions, and I can talk. I was just on a call this morning with one of our customers. We're delivering all this AI technology, and they're immediately saying, so when are you doing the next thing? It's like everybody's pushing and pushing. So when we think about all these AI developments that we're doing, we have to think about an architecture that is what we call future-proof. Essentially, we have to think about how we build for all these ongoing asks. And I think one of the big things architecturally is working towards an AV over IP architecture. And we'll talk more about how we structure that as we go through the presentation. We also have an awful lot that you can come and see down on the booth on the show floor. We'll talk about where that is in a minute. We have been continuously innovating. We will do so much more. I won't dwell on this slide. I don't think, Patrick, you'll cover an awful lot.
Yeah, we'll touch on a lot of this in a moment, yeah.
I did want to touch on key partnerships. So I talk about future-proofing these endpoints, all of these asks, all of these new innovations that are coming along. One of the biggest things that we have to think about is when I put a device into a room, with all the innovations that are coming along with AI, is that room going to become obsolete in a year, in 2 years? That's not acceptable, right? I need devices that can exist for 4, 5+ years and still allow me to continue to drive the innovations on these devices. And so one of the things that we've said is we have to, and this was, by the way, back in 2015, we said we need a partner with whom we can work on the chipset level in our devices that gives us the headroom to allow us to continue to innovate without having to change out hardware. That was our choice with NVIDIA back in 2015. And whenever I present this, I always say, and I wish I'd invested in 2015. I did not. I'm still working. The other critical partnerships are with companies like Microsoft. And Microsoft is one of our marquee customers, our marquee partners with whom we work to really integrate tightly with all the AI capabilities that are going on in the Microsoft cloud. And we have this, we have a kind of an epithet, a naming that we give to our partnership with Microsoft, which is bringing all of the AI cloud capabilities into every room in the buildings. That's what we're doing together. And making sure that we do not bring like a least common denominator or a dumbed down experience from the Microsoft cloud, nor do we want to dumb down the AI in the edge that's going on in the room. We want the best of both worlds, and that's been the real partnership goal with Microsoft. And then with Samsung, we have an ongoing relationship around the screen technologies. You'll see that in the booth as well, and how we bring that together to make a really seamless deployment experience. A lot of people I'm meeting at this conference don't know Cisco from a device perspective. We have a full portfolio. We'll cover pretty much any space that you want to get to. We're trying to do that as simply as possible. The one thing I would tell you is, as we go through our developments on any of our new devices, every device has a development cycle that says it will be Microsoft Teams Rooms certified. That's what we do. So, and every software goes through that cycle as well. So it is part of our standard development cycle going forward for all of our products. One of the latest announcements from Microsoft was MDEP. How many people are familiar with MDEP in the room? A few. So Microsoft in Microsoft Teams Rooms has two options, a Microsoft Teams Rooms for Windows and a Microsoft Teams Rooms for Android. We leverage the Android architecture. Why do we do that? It is because we containerize the Microsoft Teams Room application inside an Android container, which sits inside our RoomOS software. RoomOS is what we drive on our devices. What that means is all of the AI capabilities that we'll go through, all of those are available. All of the AI manageability is all available because we have RoomOS running when it's in MTR mode. Obviously, we're running the full MTR application experience, so we get all the capabilities. Android never touches the network in our RoomOS architecture, which is a really important security concern for many customers. So we've had lots of penetration tests done on our devices running MTR, and Android is never seen. One of the things, though, that Microsoft has wanted to do, and it's a corporate-wide goal, is having a secure Microsoft-certified Android version ongoing, and that's what MDEP represents. And so what we have said is we will support that in the architecture that we're doing. So going forward, we will also be MDEP certified. So lots to talk about. That's the context. Obviously this is about in-room experiences, but I wanted to give you an understanding of like the world in which we exist is quite a broad one, and the investments that we're making are thinking about these much broader use cases. Patrick.
Thanks, Tom. So we'll talk about two key personas that we look to address when we build our portfolio. The first is consumer of services. So who are the consumer of services? See those as the individuals who sit down in front of the camera or are dialing into a room remotely. We'll come back and listen to Tom and hear from Tom about the owner of services. How do you manage it, the facilities team, the IT team, the WPR team, and how you can leverage the insights that our product are able to pull from the room to inform your business decisions. So from a consumer of services perspective, this is driven by our new RoomOS operating system. And as Tom mentioned, our operating system runs all the time on our devices. So our team around the world have been innovating on RoomOS down through the last 20 plus years. So we're able to bring that expertise, that agentic AI experience to bear on any platform that you join into, even if it's an MDEP-enabled MTR device. So we're able to elevate the experience for users within the meeting space, even when running Microsoft Teams Rooms. This is released today, so it's available for you and your customers to start working on. So the other thing we talk about, so Tom touched on how our devices become part of your broader portfolio, broader infrastructure. So your facilities team, your IT team, and so on can leverage the insights that our devices provide. But we also want to make sure that the device becomes your teammate. So using an agentic AI experience, how do we bring a device into every conversation that can happen within the physical meeting space? So many times we use meeting rooms for face-to-face conversations, how can I ensure that, how can I bring the device in to help with that conversation? And note taker is something that we've been working on, and we're bringing that into the Microsoft Teams Rooms experience in a moment. So normally we see transcripts and summaries of meetings happening when it's on a hybrid meeting, but now we can bring that into a face-to-face meeting. So when I sit down with Tom and have a conversation, we can bring the device into that conversation, and it can transcribe and take the action items from our conversation. We're not taking notes. We can concentrate on the actual words being discussed. So Microsoft Facilitator is coming to MTR Android at the end of this calendar year, and we'll bring that directly into our device portfolio. What we're also able to do is background noise removal. So if you look at our room space at booth 5259, Tom and I actually recorded a video yesterday morning where we had a lot of background noise, a lot of people moving around, music and so on. Our microphones in the room was able to strip out all that background noise and focus on our voices. So as you bring Facilitator in the room, if there's a noise outside the room, that will just simply be removed, and the technology will focus on transcribing the words, capturing the action items, and sending that to you as a follow-up action. Going back to the kind of three-pronged approach, director. So what often happens in meeting rooms, and we've seen this many, many times, a particular camera mode is set often maybe by the IT team when it's first applied, and it's never touched again. So the individual users who walk into a room may not be very tech savvy, so may not want to interact with the navigator. So we have to make sure that you have the best possible experience without the need to change modes. So AI Agentic Director is coming to our portfolio for all platforms, all meetings in the new year in January. And what this means is that you will get the best possible experience if you stand up, if you walk around the room, the camera will follow the conversation. We'll also make sure that we're not making people seasick on the far side of the call. Right? We were gradually transitioning the video and the camera through the conversation. It's as if you were sitting in the room. And the best way to show this is with a video. So I'll let this video play.
In a big crowd, it's hard to follow the speaker. I'm here. No meeting room is the same, and one camera mode doesn't fit all scenarios. Or does it? We've come a long way from cinematic meetings, delivering a wide range of camera intelligence features and multi-camera rooms. For the first time, we're bringing the best of all experiences together with the brand new dynamic mode. In Room OS 26, the Agentic Director analyzes everything about the room, including size, shape, the number of people present, and how they're interacting. Since we're many people in this room, you get a stream from the speaker and a separate stream showing the whole room.
Let's show what happens when there is a dialogue in the room. You see everyone engaging without losing sight of the others.
And from the two less crowded rooms joining the call, we see individual frames from both rooms.
When more people join, the dynamic nature of this feature will adjust, and we double up to 2 streams, making sure you don't miss a thing. We have multiple cameras in this room, so the Agentic Director automatically chooses the best viewpoint.
Do you think it'll capture me at the top of this ladder? Yes, it did. Let's take a look at how it captures the next active participant.
Exactly. With motorized pan, tilt, and zoom, we get excellent image quality, even in larger rooms.
The new default camera mode takes the workload off IT admins whilst optimizing the best experience for meeting participants. No buttons to push, you'll always get the best view in any meeting at any moment.
So a couple of things to point out there. The peripherals that you saw in the room, the cameras on the table, the navigator, the PTZ camera up on the wall where our PM climbed the ladder to show, they're all powered with one single cable. So power over Ethernet, kind of bleeding into the AV over IP story that Tom introduced at the top call, making rooms easier to deploy and ultimately easier to manage. You'll also notice that at no time did anybody interact with the navigator to change the camera. The AI Director was able to understand what's happening in the room, especially as more people came into the room, and change the views dynamically. So as you sit remotely and dial into meeting rooms, meeting after meeting, you feel like you're physically in the room, and this kind of leads into our distance zero conversation. I sit in Ireland, I talk to Tom, I join meeting rooms all the time. I feel like I'm in those meeting rooms because the AI Director is able to allow me to follow the conversation around the room, background noise removed, and so on, and I have a great experience. So going back to this three-pronged approach, let's look at Advisor. So we'll touch on Workspace Designer in a moment. Tom will introduce a fantastic product from our team. Advisor is where you've kind of post-deployment of our devices. So our cloud management platform, Control Hub, will allow you to retrospectively look at devices that have been deployed within your organization and give you insights to whether that device is the most appropriate device for the room. So sometimes we sit with customers and they're kind of telling us maybe the experience isn't as what I want it to be, but once we look into the room, we understand that device is maybe too small a device for the size of the room, the camera reach doesn't go all the way to the back of the room. We can inform the administrator or the admin of this challenge in certain meeting rooms using Advisor. So using AI technology based on the NVIDIA chipsets, we're able to create a digital twin of your meeting rooms and advise you how best to elevate the experience in the room. So this ensures that your employees have a great experience. And kind of going back to what Tom mentioned at the start, I think ultimately what we're seeing from events like this and talking to customers is the expectation from employees going into rooms is so much higher than it was 3 or 4 years ago. And this goes back to Tom's point about we deliver one thing and we're immediately being asked about what's coming next, because that's coming from their employees. Video is now pervasive. It wasn't as pervasive 4 or 5 years ago, but everyone is expecting video and an exceptional experience when in a video call. So Workspace Advisor is coming at the end of this calendar year, and again, for existing deployed devices, it will allow you to retrospectively look at what works and what doesn't work, and we'll touch on Workspace Designer in a moment. So I'm going to hand back to Tom, where we'll talk about the owner of services, those heroes behind the scenes who make things happen.
Brilliant. Thanks, Patrick. So, yeah, just to recap what you've seen so far. So, most of those features are driven by AI in the edge, and what I mean by that is it's real-time media models that are allowing us to understand, as the video suggested, analysis of the room, analysis of the real-time audio, analysis of multiple camera feeds, the brains of the codec being able to understand not just where people are talking from, but which camera would be the most appropriate to select, and all done without users interfering. Different layouts from the room for remote participants like Patrick in Ireland to be able to see. And I think for me, the biggest thing is we have for years, and anybody who's been in this industry for more than a year knows, all of us vendors, we have layouts, all these different kinds of camera configurations that we can do. And what we do typically is in the UI, it's like select which one you want to provide for the remote participant. How many of our users do you think go in and mess with those settings? 0. I would say 0 in Cisco, and we're a bunch of techies. So I don't think really anybody's messing with it other than maybe us who are into this kind of tech. So what we've done is we said we need AI to actually go and make a decision for our user community, for the remote participants. So much more effective.
I'll give a quick anecdote on this story. So Illy and I were presenting to customers in London a few weeks ago, and Illy was asked the question, how long before the navigator, the panel on the table, will be removed from the meeting? And Illy's response, maybe 8 to 12 months, 18 months and so on. We're pretty much there with AI Director. So you may join the meeting with one button to push, and you step back completely. And AI Director will take care of everything else. Those folks, to Tom's point, who are maybe non-tech savvy, can just sit back and enjoy the meeting and just get their work done on their call.
And lots of demos to provide to you while we're here, so please come and visit us at the booth. AI in the edge, AI in the clouds, we talked about all of the wonders of the Microsoft Teams and the Microsoft Copilot and all of the broader AI capabilities to support the productivity of the user community integrated into the architecture. Last piece of the puzzle, as Patrick said, is what about all of us who are operating this architecture? How do we deal with the scale that we're being asked to address? Part of it is creating things like the digital twin of the rooms that we have deployed and understanding proactively what's working well and what's not. How often do we get a question like, hey, I had this question with a customer with whom we were working. I can't remember if it was one of our customers, our mutual customers, don't know. We had made a recommendation about what they should deploy in a lab environment that they were going to do a demonstration to the executive team. So we made this very careful recommendations. They did their own implementation, so it wasn't us. And they were like, the audio wasn't right in that room. We got a lot of questions. And we're like, well, what did you actually deploy? And in hindsight, they didn't follow the design guides. This digital twin would have allowed us to see that prior to the demonstrations to the executive team. That's the kind of thing we want from these digital twins. That digital twin comes from an original design that we've gone and done. That's what I want to start off with first and go through the whole kind of, sort of walk the journey, if you like, of those of us who are actually deploying these things and managing these things. And so it starts with the ability to design the rooms according to what the goals are. And so Patrick mentioned a tool we call Workplace Designer. It's funny, I've been demoing an awful lot on our booth. We have it on one of our devices. It's a web application All of you guys can access it. It's publicly available. I kind of think this might be the smartest thing we've done. I love our devices, but actually this is really incredible.
I always say, I think, I'm in Cisco a long time, as Tom mentioned as well. I think this is the best public-facing tool Cisco has ever built.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal tool.
And what is it for? You walk up, you say, I want to design a large or boardroom space. Let me go in and define what the dimensions of the space are, what kind of table I want to put into it, and then start to go through the recommendations of what audio, what visual, what microphone layouts, et cetera, I want to go do for this. Out of the back of that, it gives you recommendations then of what you want to go build. That then leads to your deployment. And then the question is, okay, give me a digital twin and understand whether it's actually functioning the way I designed it. Has it been deployed the right way? And then recommend the fixes. So that's available for all you guys to get access to, and we can demonstrate it on the show floor.
Tom, if I can very quickly, just on that last slide. So it works in so many ways as well. So as I talk to customers and partners, as a customer, it helps you interact with your partner, say this is the standard from Cisco. It also helps you internally to say, facilities, WPR, here's why I need to put in additional cameras, because here's the experience that we'll have. If I put in a small room bar in a bigger room, I'll have a degraded experience. So it helps you kind of convince the stakeholders in your organization to invest correctly in the rooms. From a partner perspective then, it also helps you talk to your customers, say that you need dual screens, you need a second monitor, you need a second camera and so forth. So it just brings the right stakeholders together, and it's a very matter of fact in terms of the experience that we provide on the output of the designs.
And again, every time we demonstrate this tool, somebody comes with a great idea of what we should do next. On we go. So the next thing is, great, I've designed, now I want to go and deploy. And one of the challenges with deployment is, well, I have somebody who understands the physical deployment of the room and getting the screens set up and mounting the screens and mounting the bar or the codec and the cameras and so on and so forth. And then there's the configuration of it all. What we've done here and what we're about to release is the ability for us to do a pre-configuration. In our management architecture, we call Control Hub, to set it all up. So what happens is, for the installer, it is get it all installed and set up, plug it in, and the configuration comes down from Control Hub. So it really is simplifying the deployment, not just in terms of the physical deployment, which we can talk about ad nauseum, but also then the configuration of these devices as well. I'm sorry, I should have clicked through the video. Essentially, plug it in, and you can see it running through. And then its setup is great, I'm up and running, and I'm ready to start taking calls. Ideally, what we want to do is get to the place where the configuration and setup is like reduced by an order of magnitude, so we can really get to the scale that we want to get to. The next thing is, we have a strategy. I touched on it in an earlier slide, some of you may have noticed, AV over IP. What do we mean by AV over IP? Microphones, cameras, and fill in the gaps as I go through this. What we want to do is enable you to put those microphones into a room, mount them up on the ceiling, mount them in the table, whatever you want to go do, and then one IP cable, either directly back to our codec or to a switch, giving you secure encrypted media, secure encrypted signaling, and also power over Ethernet. And what does that mean? When you think of let's pick a microphone first. What have I just done? I've removed the need for a DSP, because this will self-configure. These are AI-based microphones, which means I've reduced the need for a power drop for the DSP. I've massively simplified the configuration. I don't need a power drop for the microphone itself, and I plug it straight into the switch. For power, it's an Ethernet cable. It's a Cat5 cable. So it's super, super simple. And so that deployment now becomes so much more efficient when we look at the rooms, and on we go. We did that, of course, I guess about 5 months ago, and immediately came the request, well, can I do some of the configurations from, I'm talking to our friends here from our partners who know our stuff really, really well. These guys are like, hey, but I want to be able to configure pre-configs to fence off certain areas if I've configured the room in a different way. So you can imagine a big room like this. I change the layout. I want some quiet spaces over in the corners and focused area here. I want to flip the microphones to do that. That's the kind of thing that we're introducing. Those kinds of configurations become much, much simpler to go do. The cameras. So when you think about the cameras, IP-based cameras, it's the same concept. If I have a back of room camera that tracks the presenters, us standing at the front and us wandering around, I want AI to follow us around, but I want to deploy the cameras really simply. I want encrypted media, I want encrypted signaling, and I want power over Ethernet. Same thing. What have I just done? I've got rid of 2 HDMI extenders per camera. I've got rid of 2 power drops for those HDMI extenders. I've got rid of the power drop for the camera. Now it's so much easier to deploy. That's what we mean by AV over IP, is simplifying the deployment massively. When we do this and when we build these products, fundamental, remember that first slide I talked about real estate and facilities? What are they being asked? Give me a sustainable architecture. And so for us, when we think about that as the product team, we obviously have to think about recyclable materials. We have to think about the way that we refresh and recycle received materials coming back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are fundamental to our build process. When you deploy these devices, what is their power consumption? Not just their power consumption when they're actually in calls, but what are they doing when they're not in calls? And how do I make sure I'm managing that super efficiently? Because we're constantly real-time monitoring occupancy in rooms, that drives us to be able to say, do you know what? I don't want digital signage on the screen if I'm not in a call and nobody's there. Makes no sense. Go into a deep hibernate state and reduce the amount of power that you're using. Office hours, if nobody's in the office because I'm outside office hours, go into a deep hibernate state. Those are the things that we're doing on these. And on and on and on, these are kind of the sustainability goals. So with that, just to summarize, right, we've done an awful lot with AI in the edge, partnering for AI in the clouds, plural, and AI in our control architecture. We have an awful lot to go do. As I say, we keep getting the next wave of questions. The key is that you're making your architecture future-proof so you can build to that. The other thing I would say, just to wrap up my talk track on these siloed models that are currently going on. In all of our organizations, and Cisco was not immune to this, we learned our lesson. Facilities investing millions of dollars in sensor architectures, discovering that the devices actually were doing all the sensor data gathering that was necessary. And suddenly we could say, let me take that money that was being invested in all these sensors and actually apply it to scale the deployment of our video devices across 100% of our spaces. As soon as we did that, the usage of our real estate shot up. We have no return to office policy. You go to the office if you like inside Cisco. And we track the usage of our offices, and that's the way we've built it. Make it friction-free, make it so it's pleasant for us to go into the office. The old folk who've been in Cisco for decades, I like going into the New York office, which is the nearest one for me. I enjoy meeting with the people that's there because I also know that I can get my work done. I can find a space easily for my private meetings, et cetera. So with that, there's an awful lot here. I think one of the things I find when I'm presenting this to people who maybe have not been exposed to the Cisco model is like, you know, what a wonderful story. Where can I see it? And so this is what we're trying to do, is have as much as we can future-proof workplace events in regions, in spaces, both our own spaces and our partner spaces, to be able to demonstrate what the art of the possible is, so you can really see it in action. We have seeding programs that allow you to experience it and start to get a sense of it in your own architectures and on from there. Patrick, anything else you want to say just in terms of...
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning. So we have dates up until the end of January. Sorry, question.
So with the encryption, are you able to use your custom NS key there? You said the encryption is over IP for the voice camera. Can you use your own encryption there?
Oh, can you use, like if you have your own encryption? A good question. I don't believe so. But it's something, yeah, maybe it's something we need to follow up on. I don't know how configurable that is, to be honest. Okay.
Yeah. In terms of events then, so we are kind of locked and loaded until the end of January, and then as we come to February, you know, many of our customers will be at IEC in Barcelona, Cisco Live Europe, and then we kind of roll on. So the QR code in the top right-hand corner here, scan that, bookmark it. This is going to be a rolling series of events as we go around the world. So you'll see more coming in Q2, Q3, many more across the US as well, Atlanta, West Coast, New York, as Tom mentioned, Chicago as well. So there's going to be lots of events and lots of opportunities for your stakeholders in your organizations across facilities, WPR and so forth to come in and experience this in person.
Super. And I would just like to call out, like, we have a really, really strong partner community who are also leading their own showcase environments. one of which we just were talking about earlier this week, they will be running events as well. And so these are places you have a lot of options about where you can go and see this stuff and talk to real specialists who understand better than I do encryption questions like you just asked. Where are we going? Like, what's the journey that we're on right now? I won't drain this slide, but just to say, like, what we're seeing in terms of our Microsoft NVIDIA partnership is massive growth. And that growth is coming, it's sort of in two forms. We're seeing new customers coming along who are discovering our partnership. And it's why it's so important for us to be at events like this. We're meeting so many new customers as we come to these events who perhaps have said, well, I don't work with Cisco because I'm on a Microsoft architecture because of the historic competitiveness in the collaboration space. So that's one area where we're seeing massive growth. The other area we're seeing is customers who've been going down a path with Microsoft Teams Rooms and have been starting to see real challenges as they get to the 50s, the hundreds of devices. Suddenly it's like, how do I scale this? I'm having real challenges. The partnership we're finding is we can get to thousands of devices really, really quickly. I have personally been involved with customers who've got to 2,000 configured devices within months. I mean, we can move really fast. I think some of our customers, some of our largest customers are talking about tens of thousands of devices. If you think about tens of thousands of devices, if you can't deploy those super efficiently, you'll be refreshing and refitting the devices. Even if our devices last for 5 or 7 years, you'll be refreshing the stuff that you deployed before you've finished the deployment of your new stuff. That's the stuff we have to do away with. We have to speed it up much, much more effectively. We're seeing enormous growth. When I look at these two constituents, people scaling and new customers, 330% plus is increased in the large-scale customer base deploying Microsoft Teams Rooms. Patrick, anything else you wanted to pick up here?
Yeah, no, I think as Tom mentioned, like multiple customers deploying at pace. And again, it goes back to the expectation for your employees to have video in all your meeting spaces. So you need to manage that at scale. You're not getting additional headcount to deploy and manage all your facilities. So how do you do this through Control Hub? And again, this is just beginning to land and accelerate across all our verticals.
Superb. So yeah, I'm not great at boasting. I'm British. Our design team are really fabulous. They win a lot of awards. We always flash this up. They get very upset with me if I don't flash up an award slide to tell you all how fabulous the design team is. They do a really nice job. These are elegant devices that go into rooms. Rooms like they go into boardrooms. They go into these large training areas and auditoriums where there's an expectation not just to do the right thing, but not to destroy the design of those spaces as well.
Yeah, I think the key thing to note in the last slide, they've managed to do the impossible, build really, really nice devices sustainably and that will last a long time. So you have a return on investment. Most of our products are 5 to 7 year life cycles, so they're going to be in your portfolio for quite a while.
Yeah, and maybe the last thing I would say on that is, I again, been in Cisco a long time. Our origins are at the top end, right? We used to do these 3-screen systems, hundreds of thousands of dollars, super expensive, very rarefied, executive-based, et cetera, et cetera. That is not the Cisco of today. So all of this stuff that we're describing, we are driving extremely hard to make it extremely cost-effective to deploy at scale. So that's the other thing I would encourage you guys to do is just think about what you want to go do. Ask your Cisco representatives to give you an idea of what the price points are. It's very, very competitive with the market these days. And all of this is a slide that just don't trust us. We're getting some really, really good analyst reports from Frost & Sullivan, from Omdia, from IDC. All of it showing Cisco up and to the right and significantly differentiated from the competition in this area, and we're seeing that in the results over the last couple of years. So with that, I think we're wrapped up, and we have 6 minutes for questions. Remarkable. So, any questions?
So for the ADI network base that you mentioned, this network, is it internal with the switch within the room, or is it a separate network?
So.
Repeat the question?
Yes, repeat the question. So I think the question was leveraging AV over IP, what's the network that's powering the devices? So I'll just kind of say again at the top, 5259 is where our booth is, and we have actually built a room showcasing exactly this. So we have 7 peripherals in the room. We have 3 cameras, we have a Ceiling Mic Pro, and we have navigators both in the room and panels outside the room. all those devices are coming back to our codec. Our codec is effectively the brains within the room. So that codec then is connected to your network, your infrastructure network. The codec in the room has 3 PoE ports, and you can extend that with a Cisco Catalyst switch as well, so delivering PoE to all those 7 peripherals. So we're kind of showing a room that's a very elevated experience. That same room could be deployed with a smaller device, less peripherals and so on, but we're deliberately showcasing the best of possible within that space, but it's powered by the codec and PoE.
I think the question, if I understand the question specifically, it's like, who owns that switch? Is it you, the AV team, or is it them, the networking team, right? Is that what you were asking? Yeah. Absolutely. So I think here's where it's a journey. So we talked about encryption, and obviously that was part of our making sure that it was media and signaling encryption right to the peripheral. So we're not putting in vulnerable devices into the network architecture. What we're seeing and what we're doing in many rooms is we're saying, well, look, it's a journey. There is an organizational divide typically between the AV IT team and the network IT team. That divide is starting to blur. Some customers, including us, are actually putting our devices and our peripherals into the production network. Some customers are saying, you know what, I'm going to keep that separate for now, and I will have the switch in the room, and it will be an AV managed switch. So in Control Hub, in our AV management platform, you can actually see the switch and see the status of the switch. And so there's basic management in there. So you don't need to go to the networking team to say, can you tell me what's going on with this switch? You actually have that capability. I think what we're going to see is there will be a journey more and more to a production network environment, which you can do, but it's an organizational question to be able to get through. I think some of the concerns, no doubt, that network will have, like, what are you putting on my network?
Yeah, and that goes back to the point of the MTRA. So Microsoft Teams Rooms, Android, which we have settled on, we often get questions from customers, I can't have Android on my network. And it goes back to our unique architecture, which our engineering teams across Cisco and Microsoft have agreed on, where we still continue to run Room OS, which is a Linux-based operating system. And that's the only, again, touch point with the network. Android sits on top of that. And what I often say is that from a security perspective, we have our product deployed in every organization around the world. So I think trust is one of the key words we come back to. So whether it be government institutes here in the US, in Europe, large-scale enterprise accounts. So we have that trust built in, and security is always part of our DNA.
Super question. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Talk about review writing. What standards are you using? Are they Cisco standards? Are you using open source?
We're using the Cisco standards. We're using just standard protocols that are available on the Cisco production network. Working together with our own networking team to make sure that we're interfacing to things like CDP and the kind of provisioning ZDP or ZTP to me, that zero-touch provisioning on the networking device, those kind of protocols, that's what we're integrating with. Good question.
Another question on AI and how you follow the speaker. Are you using the voice or using the face or a combination?
Great question.
Yeah. You need to come by the room. We'll show you a demo. So
repeat the question.
The question was, how are we recognizing people's face as they move around the room? How do we prevent picking up the side of someone's head and so forth? So I'll talk about the meeting room that we have downstairs. So we have, again, a number of cameras in the room. The era of the bowling alley camera, which is the camera at the top of the room, is kind of no more. We've moved on from that. People are expecting multiple cameras. So when I turn and face Tom across the table, the camera over Tom's shoulder is recognizing where I'm sitting. And we're doing that through a multiple of ways. So with our technology and our microphone, speaking through the codec back to the camera, we're nearly triangulating where that person is in the room who is talking. If I stand up, then we're tracking facial recognition as I move around the room. So it's a combination between both microphone and the camera in the room, again, powered by that codec that sits in the room. So
what's really happening is our microphones have multiple microphone elements in them so that they can beamform, adaptive beamform, finding out where people are and isolating where people are. And then the cameras provide where are they facing. So you have that 360-degree view, and it's like, oh, I'm facing this way, therefore I should go for that camera. The camera is guided to the person by the microphone location. Yeah. So that's what's going on. That's the kind of combined intelligence that Patrick was talking about to drive that.
I'm just looking at the time, so I think we're on time. But again, we're heading down to the booths right now. So if anyone would like to join us, we're at 5259. We can show this experience like in the flesh, and we have a number of other stories to tell at the booth. So thanks very much, folks, for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.